Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Conversations with Luciana, the house that Luciana has built, where everyone has a place at the table. If you're a new listener, I bring you greetings and salutations. If you are a returning listener, welcome back, family. Real talk on real issues, real life situations. Keep in mind, advice is never given, but opinions and a new perspective is always welcome. You can find me on most podcast streaming services as well as YouTube under Conversations with Luciana. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure to turn on your notifications to know when the next Conversation with Luciana are posted. My posting schedule is as follows: Motivational Monday, Inspirational Empowerment Tuesday, Open Forum Thursday, Coffee and Tea with Luciana on Sundays. YouTube exclusives are on Mondays and Saturdays. If you would like to submit a topic of conversation or be a guest on a podcast episode of Conversations with Luciana, email me at conversationswithluciana@gmail.com. Look forward to speaking with you soon. Have a good one. Let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, how are you? I hope you're doing well. I want to talk about words, in particular one word, ghetto, right? I'm going to give you the noun definition and the verb definition. You know what a noun is: person, place, or thing. Verb, action, right? Anyway, here you go. Ghetto, a part of a city, especially a slum area, occupied by a minority group or groups. Verb definition of ghetto: part of a restricted, segregated group. Interesting. Not once did it say ghetto was a black person, African American, if you want to be politically correct. Did not say Hispanic. Did not say Asian. Didn't even say white. It gave no indication that the phrase or the word ghetto was about a person, right? It wasn't about a person. It's interesting how you hear a lot of people, oh, she's ghetto. He's ghetto. Go back to the ghetto. Now, go back to the ghetto, which is interesting that people would say that, but nevertheless, they say it to cast judgment, if you want to say, about a particular person, group of society. Now, I cannot stand when people say someone is talking ghetto or people are ghetto, because the definition does not describe ghetto as a person. Now, there are some questionable behaviors. There are people that talk in this slang, which in the Bay Area, in particular Oakland, they were trying to pass Ebonics as a language. Clearly, that was to me a slap in the face of all the English teachers that taught us to speak words, okay, that made sense. You know, you cannot go to a job and say, we be coming. You cannot say that. You can't write that in an email. They're going to look at you crazy. Right, but people do that. I think I heard the funniest saying one time. I was at work with a friend of mine, and there was this girl. No, she wasn't a girl. She was a woman who knew better, over the age of 21. And she sat at her desk, and she said, why come? And at first, I looked and said, clearly, her words just got, tangled from her brain to her mouth. She didn't mean it. But then she said it again. Why come? And so I looked over at my friend And he looked at me and he said, "That's why the cow jumped over the fence." And I just fell out laughing. I just fell out laughing because that was hilarious. But she meant that. I don't know why she said it, but she meant it, you know. And I laughed because I thought it was funny, because I'm just like, clearly. But I wouldn't call her ghetto. I just was call her, okay, maybe you shouldn't put those two together, because that does not make any sense, right? But I remember them trying to do that, and parents, rightfully so, became outraged, because that's crazy talk. That's just crazy talk to put Ebonics as a form of language so you can be graded on street slang. Now, it could be a urban slang that you use amongst your peers, but the rest of the society is going to look at you like you done lost your damn marbles. But when people say ghetto, they mean it in a derogatory manner. They do. You cannot, especially when they're describing a person. Now, I don't know why people associate a segment, or not a segment, a part of society where it is maybe undeveloped. There's a liquor store in every corner. There is the sidewalks are not evenly paved. Their streets have potholes. There's a lot of trash. It just seems like that part of the city is not being cared for, which is if you can go to another part and you see a difference. Why is that? The suburbs, sunny, the ghetto, dark, but yet and still the suburbs come to the so-called ghetto to get whatever they want to get. Sometimes in those little cuts are the best way you can get the food or groceries or stuff that you wouldn't find in the suburban area. But I don't like when people think that a person comes from that area, that they are uneducated, unworthy, uncouth. That's not necessarily true. It's what society deems as a place less desirable for people to go, that's occupied by a certain minority group. It didn't say color, right? It did not say color. But yet and still, we identify people that may be unsophisticated, doesn't dress a certain way, as ghetto. Now, you see some people, I know a particular young lady who talks like, I don't know why she talks like that, but she's very loud. And she always, talking that, I want to say, slang. And it's kind of like, and interesting enough, she's not African or black. She's not even Hispanic. And so someone had to tell her, which was hilarious to me. He looked at me and he just shook his head and said, "Damn, why she gotta be so loud? Why does she want the attention to be drawn on her?" Now, you have people that are attention seekers. That's what they do. They seek out to be seen. And if they can't be seen, they want to be heard. How to be heard? They raise their voice. And they think it's cute and it's funny. And it's not. Especially when you're at work. But you see it. Just like these reels or these, what do you call these things? Stories that you see of people on certain social media apps, are very professional, and then they, at one point when somebody says something, they ready to take off their earrings or get up and they get ready to go to, it's like, come on, but that's what we see. So we think that's acceptable. But I stop people. You can have people that are uneducated, uncouth, I want to say undesirable, but they live I don't even want to say ratchet, but they live a very questionable lifestyle in a big house. with 2 cars. White picket fence. You know? What my point is, ghetto is not a person, right? It's not a person. You have some people in your family, some cousins, and you might say, "Ooh, I don't want them. They from the ghetto. They from the ghetto." You know, as if they're not clean. They're unclean. Their clothes is dirty. You know, they sleep, wake up in filth. And I remember growing up, my cousins used to live on Cherry Street, which was a block up from East 14th. Now they call International Boulevard. But it was, you know, I went over there. You know, I was over there. I went in the house. House looked clean to me. You know, there were people that were all, you know, outside and things of that nature, but they weren't fighting. They weren't drinking. They weren't smoking. And my cousin, who died many, many years ago, but his stepfather used to draw, and Darren was my cousin's name. He can draw. I mean, some of the stuff that, you know, before graffiti was very popular, or where before, you know, people, you know, were taught that he can draw. I remember his drawings as a kid because his, you know, stepfather would do it. He would draw. So it was a talent. But again, when I walked in the house was clean. You know, I didn't see, you know, what people say, oh, they got roaches. I didn't see roaches. You know, I didn't see, you know, rats or, you know, ants or mice. I didn't see that. You know, I saw basically cleanness, you know. But then you went over to a friend of a friend's house, and they lived in a nice big house with a big lawn, and you walked in and you saw, you know, nothing. You saw not a home, but you saw a house. It was very cold, but it was not a lot of stuff. And there was a piano in one room, and then there was a big formal dining room in the other. And then you went to the kitchen. It was like, oh my gosh, the kitchen was so small, and it was just like, oh, there was stuff on the counter, and there was a little area off where they watched TV, and I remember them eating baked beans. Okay? I remember going in their backyard. They had a beautiful, beautiful apple tree, and, you know, full of those sour green apples, and lemons and plums, and they had plums. But there was a pond back there, not a palm, a pond, and there was a statue, and that pond contained stuff. And at one point it was what I call, they had goldfish or things, but that's when, before they converted the house from a doctor's office, yes, a doctor's office, to a house, you know, where people lived in. And there was that, you know, pond, and there was nothing in there, and the backyard was kind of, you know, it was nice, but it was a lot of stuff back there. It's scary. And then you go into the house and go up the stairs, you know, light stairs, and the rooms were very small. And then one particular room was full of, I want to say, not junk, but it was junky. You know, it was stuff all in it. It wasn't very, you know, wasn't very clean or things of that nature. But nevertheless, they have to be a beautiful house. So looks can be deceiving, right? Looks can be very deceiving. But that's what it is when people say things like that, you know? Don't judge a book or a person by its cover. You don't know. And please stop labeling them as being ghetto, you know, or from the ghetto. You know, there are some people that are very, you know, live in nice homes that can, you open up their mouth, you be like, damn, you know, damn. They say the most damnedest things. They just sound like, ugh, just ridiculous. And never, do not underestimate where someone comes from as being uneducated. Because some of the aunts and cousins and grandparents and mothers that you thought that maybe because they didn't get a PhD in some area that they weren't smart. They can figure it out, and they can teach you a thing or two. So I remember my nephew was telling me he went to a place, I believe it was Discovery Bay, and a woman was, up on his heels, and they were pushing in the cart, and he got frustrated and he threw a drink, and she yelled at the window, go back to the ghetto. Now they're in Discovery Bay, and it's kind of like, how do you know they're not from there? Again, you associate a place with a person. And so it's like, have you seen some of these places that they live in? Have you seen them? I wouldn't live there, but they feel entitled to say those words. So we have to choose our words carefully, and we cannot always judge someone based on the color of their skin, right? You can't, but people do. Just like, if you come from, I want to call it the urban area. I do not like saying ghetto. If they live in the suburban area, we live in the urban area. It's just, that's what it is. It sounds more hip. It sounds more appealing when you say urban versus ghetto. And people say, "Ooh, I don't want to go down there. That's ghetto." What? Again, you're associating a person ethnicity by where they live. Come on now. You can't do that. But it's funny. It's acceptable if you're a professional athlete. Hear me out when I tell you that. You can come from living, sleeping in your car. You can play a sport. You get drafted, and the next thing you know, you're making millions and millions of dollars, right? People are not going to care that you was born in a less desirable area. All they going to know is that you got money. Some people change. Some people try to still associate themselves where they came from, right? I remember seeing the movie, and I am blanking on the name of that movie. Oh my goodness. But I know it contained the actor. The character was Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Sam Cooke, and Jim Brown. You guys forgive me. But anyway, I'm saying that it was Jim Brown character, or what he experienced, whereas he played on national TV. He was known worldwide, and he went to someone's house to have a conversation, and then they went to move a TV, and the person, the coach, when he respected, said, there's no, and I'm gonna put this in context, niggas allowed in the house. What? But that's a real thing, right? But that was a part, One Night in Miami. That's the name of the movie. I knew it was going to come from me. But what I'm saying to you, it doesn't matter how far you come. Sometimes people will still associate you in a negative light, right? They think that you made it. You can bring everybody, your mama, cousin, everybody, Uncle Willie, all of them to their area. But they're more tolerant and more accepting because you got money, right? So does money, I'm going to ask you a question. Does money excuse the behavior? Does it justify the behavior? Or are you not ghetto because you have people in your house that are questionable? Right? So think about it for a moment. Again, my perspective, my opinion, and I know you guys going to harper. You guys going to cling to the word because I didn't say the N word. Get off your soapbox with me, all right? It was put in context. So if you got offended, then you should be offended when you hear it being said by other groups of people. You should be offended that somebody in your family, maybe even you, say it on a regular basis. So get off of my case with that. I'm not going to go around saying it every single time I do a podcast on this. However, I don't need to bleep out the word because they're not bleeping out the word when they say it. You're not bleeping out the word when you sing it to somebody else. But anyway, that's what it is. I wanted to do that. It was recommended to me, I should say, to do the podcast. Choose your words carefully, right? Don't associate a person's background. And I don't like the description of it. Again, I say urban. Even if you live in the most undesirable neighborhood, it's still urban. It's still an urban community. It's still a community, right? It is. Whether you like it or not, it is a form of community. People have a sense of self-worth and self-purpose. But that's just my thoughts. I would love to know your thoughts on it. And if you are offended by me using that word, then you should be offended by a whole bunch of words. But I digress. That will be in another podcast. But I thank you. I appreciate you. And you take care. All right? Bye. Thank you for listening to another podcast episode of Conversations with Luciana. I look forward to speaking with you again. Until then, be kind to yourself and others. Make every day your best day. Stay encouraged and press forward, for the best is yet to come. Peace, and I'm out. Let's go.